After 9 o'clock. We want to welcome everyone on this Monday morning to the third week of our Rural Life Virtual Summer Institute. And we want to welcome you to this session, a leadership session actually, supporting teachers on the road to personalized learning. All right, my name is Bethany Fillers and I'm your session host. I'm here to support the session presenter, who I'll introduce shortly, offer technical assistance to participants, as well as share the session evaluation and certificate information at the end of the session. Please do not hesitate to use the chat feature, which I think Candace will be showing us how to use if you're unfamiliar with that. But feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions or request any technical assistance. At this time, I would like to introduce you to Candace.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for showing up on a Monday morning. Apparently, like, it's not a big deal to some people to just get up, Linda, but for the rest of us, it's like, yeah, I know. I need to find the little emoji, or I call it, has the clapping hands. Excuse me. We'll go ahead and get started just for time's sake. Again, thank you guys for showing up for supporting teachers on the road to personalized learning. You guys can access these materials if you haven't already. Bethany, later during the session, she'll be sharing a link to a Google Doc that has those added links there. But this session itself will be shared with you afterwards as well, so that you'll have access to any kind of speakers, notes, Lord help, if that's what you guys want, it'll be available to you, but all the slides as well. But this is what it will look like for you all. And so we all know we're here for rural life. We're talking about how to create that hybrid between best practice in literacy and personalized learning, so that we can make some magic happen for us and for our kids this year. And here's some contact information. I know I'm kind of breezing through this first part, but I know you've probably seen it like 852 times if you've been going to these sessions. So again, thanks for sticking with me on this. We will take a real quick look at Zoom here, just to make sure. I don't want to assume too much, but just to make sure that we're all kind of familiar with it, or we can at least find what we need. So we can adjust or move around your participants' videos. Like if you feel like it's blocking your screen, you can adjust it and move it around a bit. And the same is true for the chat, which should probably appear. It may appear in the middle of your screen, but most likely like on the right side of the screen for everyone. If you feel like you need to kind of toggle and go back and forth, you'll notice you can double click on the screen itself and go to full screen, and then Escape will take you back out of that if you need to. If you have not already muted your mic, you can go ahead and do that. Excuse me. And that's really just to prevent feedback and other things from going on, since apparently I'm going to create enough noise like coughing this morning. And I think chat is really where it's at for us. So if you guys will, first of all, do you guys have any questions about this housekeeping page here? No, because it's been like this. It's been like our whole lives for the last few months. Okay, I feel you on that. If you guys will go ahead and comment in Zoom and just share with us your grade and content area, if you're an administrator or other leader. This is really just so we can test out chat, make sure everything's working for us. But also so we have kind of an idea of who our audience is this morning. So if you will, in chat, just let us know who you are and maybe what your role is. And John, should I be able to see chat while I'm in presenting mode, or?
No, not necessarily, Candace. Okay. I've noticed, Friday Institute and others, the presenter's not been able to see it. So, okay. Bethany will help you with that if there's questions that get posted in. Okay.
Like, can you guys see chat on my screen right now, my shared screen?
No, we do not see that.
Mm-mm. I just didn't want to interfere with anybody's viewing. All right, guys, thank you. It looks like we have several coaches with us today, administrators. We've got some SPED folks, principals. Thank you guys for just making sure that that feature worked. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and take a look at what our goals are today. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. So we're going to be framing our understanding today around personalized learning. We won't go really deep into it because you probably have already had that exposure to it, but it's kind of difficult to talk about mindsets and entry points without framing that around our understanding of personalized learning. So once we've done that for a few minutes, we'll talk about how to create that positive culture within our schools so that people are more receptive to personalized learning. And we want to talk about ways that we can do this authentically so that it sticks and so that it's real for these folks. And so this graphic is, I'm sure, something that you guys have seen a couple of times now. And we'll just kind of gloss through this fairly quickly. I'm going to start with learner profiles, and then we'll just go clockwise. So learner profiles, we want to just make sure that our data is sitting alongside of the like any kind of interest surveys that folks have administered. Flexible learning environments, we're coming to a greater understanding that this has to do not just with flexible seating, but with our time and our space. So we're keeping that in mind. For competency-based progressions, let's be thinking about our standards and what we're measuring and the way in which we're measuring that really. And then personalized learning paths has to do with being adaptive to those students' needs. And so as we are moving through this, we're really trying to use this as our guiding questions. I'll go back to this real quick. We're thinking about those core principles, and we're really asking ourselves, what of this or what elements of this am I already seeing in my school so that gives me a starting point. And so if all goes well, we'll watch a few minutes of this Flight Academy video. And again, I'll leave this question up here for us because this is going to help us frame the rest of our work today. So where do we see elements of personalized learning within this video?
Middle school, I think my biggest memory is 4 walls, 30 desks.
A different teacher for everything and chaos in between.
Constant movement, constant shifting, one classroom to another.
So everybody did the same projects, you all had the same outcome of your project, kind of standard.
Pretty much sat there all day listening to lectures. I didn't like middle school, truthfully, when I was her age at all.
It was nothing like this.
We're not preparing today's learners for your future, we're preparing them for theirs. If we educate learners as though the future is predictable, we're shortchanging them. So we need to prepare them for a future that will feature rapid change and will be unpredictable.
If it keeps going, don't take it out, wait till it stops.
Why do we ask kids to just sit in a room and listen to one person for hours on end and expect that they're going to be able to take something away from it? If we can engage them in the experience and have them be an active participant in it, that's really when we're going to start to see change happen.
Since becoming a mom, I've realized that all kids have special needs, and I want those needs to be addressed on a daily basis. I want them to be able to learn what it is that they're passionate about and what they love. We can't talk about history without talking about science. We can't talk about history without talking about math. All of these things are interrelated.
Krista Crowder and I had been teaching on the 7th grade team, so I approached her and I said, I think I want to do something different. We really spent a full year in development of trying everything from how we teach to setting up physical space to furniture within the space. It was really that collaboration that built this idea of what are we going to do. The Flight Academy stands for Facilitating Learning Through Integration, Guidance, High Expectations, and Technology. We are a specialized program within a traditional middle school.
I want each kid to be setting their own goals, knowing what they want to work on in all of their different subject areas, and really having different paths for each one of our students.
Learning is like a different thing for every single person. They have high expectations for us. They give us high school work sometimes, and it's kind of crazy, but they challenge us in a way that we're trusted with a lot of responsibility.
I have advanced humanities since I wanted to grow more, as I'm a writer and a reader as well.
The one-on-one advisor is like a conference. We have it every week where we get to talk about like what I've been working on and see how far I am in a certain thing. Probably right here on the
Yes, good idea. All right, thanks, Logan.
The role of educators in that environment is subtle, it's nuanced, but it is constantly supporting the learner as opposed to demonstrating the expertise of the educator. That it is all about learning, not just about instruction.
Getting to a structure and policy change might take some time. Getting it right in the forefront with students today is a huge benefit to our system during this time of transition. And for the most part, everything we're doing happens at the local level. It's where the best decisions are made, it's where we have the greatest source of impact. And it's really where ultimately the user is, or our student.
That's it? Oh, yeah, that is yes.
I believe our department does exhibit empathetic leadership, where you understand the interaction that has to happen at the local and state level. As parents see the value of personalized learning, they push that at the local level. And as different districts see things going on, they want to emulate the ones that are successful. They tend to take pride in regional achievement and success.
All right, guys, we'll take a little break from that. The remainder of the video will be available too if you do want to check this out. But again, we wanted to kind of partner a visual with our questionnaire. Sometimes it helps to see some things in action. Sometimes it lets us think, maybe I am doing a couple of these things, or maybe that's something that I've been thinking about. So at this point, again, we're just doing some thinking. We're not necessarily having to share out right now. I wanted to show you guys this 4 corners activity so that we could be framing this and making it really more personalized to you and your school. So what is personalized learning to you? As we look at these 4 images here, and I'll enlarge these here for you in just a bit, but as we look at these images, we want to be asking ourselves, which of these do you think best represents personalized learning, and how do you know? So I'll give you a minute to just kind of check out those questions, and then I'll move on so you can see some enlarged pictures. And then we'll revisit this screen again. So which of these do you think best represents personalized learning? And I'll ask you guys to comment in the chat if you don't mind. And again, there's no like right or wrong answer. Like, this is a safe place. Like, we're just trying to look at these elements that are available to us, these examples, and we're trying to think what we can do with this, with our actual school, so we can make this real and relevant. So in the chat, you're responding to which of these corners, A, B, C, D, best represents personalized learning. Yeah, Melanie, thank you for your comment. And B, it looks like there's a lot of different kinds of resources that they're working with. And it looks like these kids, that they are grouped in some kind of way. Not real sure how that's been decided, but it does look like some grouping is going on. Yeah, Denise, I like what you've mentioned there. Like, maybe, but I don't know all of the details here. So maybe if I knew a little bit more about it. Looks like a lot of us are going with B and D. Okay, Lisa has noticed that we've got some technology being used. Yeah, and again, you guys are mentioning the grouping. So you guys feel free to continue commenting there if you want, but thank you to those of you guys that went ahead and chimed in a little bit. Again, I like that comment there that, well, maybe if I knew what was going on over here, perhaps, and really that's kind of the point of it. Like, what is the purpose of the grouping? What's the purpose of the technology? What's the reason that we're doing this? And is it actually geared toward, yeah, our competence, our standards, certainly, but like, is this incorporating some aspect of personalization with our students as well? And so I'll project a couple of questions up here for you, and I'm going to go ahead and put both of these up here for us. This is really what we're trying to center our learning around today, because we want, by the time we leave this morning, we want to be able to know what a next step, a couple of next steps are, so that, again, this is something real that we can do something with. So once again, what aspects of personalized learning are you already seeing? So we watched that Flight Academy video and we took a look at that 4 corners activity. So you're probably already thinking like of different classrooms that you've been in where you have seen different aspects of personalized learning. And so then we're thinking, well, how do I build on that? How do I move my folks forward? And again, this is just some think time for you here. So one of those first steps in moving our folks forward has to do with mindsets. So before we get really in depth in mindsets, we want to remember what we know, and probably you've been exposed to this already, your sphere of influence. So there's some things that we can control, there's some things that we can influence, and there are some things that are a concern because, well, we frankly can't touch them. Like, you know, you're going to take a state, with the exception of this last weird, crazy year, like you're going to take a state test. There are certain accountability measures that are in place for all of us. But the thing about it is even if we can't control everything, we can certainly influence other things, like the mindsets of our people that we work with and that we work for in some cases. So even though the control may stay the same, you'll notice that whenever your circle of influence grows, notice that like the circle of concern, it was diminished. So there's theoretically less for us to be concerned about, less for us to worry over when we can increase that kind of influence within our schools and within our faculty. So we'll be thinking about that as we take a look at this quote here from Dr. Deming. We don't have to have everybody on board. We don't even have to have the majority of the folks, you know, wholly sold into this. What we need is to get a few folks that we can trust and that we can partner with within each of our schools and build that momentum. Because our maximum effectiveness is not necessarily based on majority. Instead, it's that energy that is propelling us forward. And a lot of times that energy comes from or within a small group of people. So I want you guys to be thinking about the folks that are in your building and how we can distribute that leadership out so that we can achieve that maximum effectiveness. So thinking about your faculty, thinking about your schools, who do you think you need to have on board in order to gain that momentum? And so this is just like, I don't know who these people are going to be like in your school necessarily, but take a minute just on your own, like on a piece of paper that's close by to you, and go ahead and jot down those names of the folks that you think I could get so-and-so. And in the past I've worked with so-and-so, and I think that if I talk to, take just a minute or two and think about the folks that you need to have on board that you might be able to partner with this upcoming school year. So now that you've got that list of folks, and certainly this is something that you can review later if you need or if you want to, we'll go ahead and revisit what our goals were that we set for ourselves. So just real quickly, you see we took a few minutes to just review and reflect on personalized learning, what it is, what it could look like, and start thinking about what it is and what it could look like in my building, with my faculty, with my kids, with my students. And so we want to build on that by looking at some practices for creating that positive mindset, which is going to be rooted in our values and in our beliefs. So before we get started with that, I just want to share with you guys this text rendering protocol. And you'll notice that there's a QR code over here on the right-hand side. If you have a mobile device and you want to use that just for access, you can. Otherwise, Bethany, if you don't mind, I'm not sure if you have already, but if you don't mind, maybe you could go ahead and drop that link to the Google Doc. And you'll notice once you guys get there, this is the same information that is in that materials folder on the Rural Life VSI session page. But I'm just going to go through the protocol itself. So you'll see 3 articles whenever you open that. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have prefaced this. We're not reading 3 articles. They're there, we're not reading all 3. That's just so that you have a little bit of choice in the matter. So you'll select one article, and they're short with maybe the exception of that last one, but they're pretty short. And in a typical text rendering protocol, it's really kind of like what you would do highlighting if we were in person. You would select a sentence that stands out to you, a phrase that stands out to you, and maybe a word from that text that really resonates with you. I will tell you guys, since, you know, just the confines of the time restraints that we're working with here, and because it's kind of virtually, please don't feel like you need to do all 3 of those for this activity. You don't. It's okay if you want to select one article and pick a word or a phrase that kind of stood out to you. And I will go ahead and pull up these links, which I know you can't access on this page, which you will be able to after the fact, after this session. These slides are loaded for you. While you guys are pulling up that document and kind of perusing that, I'll just give you like maybe just a real quick summary of each of these. For the 6 tips, this is like the practical application of it. So if you feel like you've been working with personalized learning for a little while, or feel like you're, you know, maybe a 2 out of a 3 as far as like your expertise or understanding of it, the first one might be a good option for you. 2 might be a better option if you're thinking about, I'm probably going to have to do some work with my folks on collaboration, on getting us to those mindsets that are going to be positive enough for us to move forward. If you choose to, you might skip down to the power of assumption section. There's a lot of text there, but if you go to the section that says the power of assumptions, that'll give you less to look at today. The third option for you guys is the 5 perspectives. The little anecdote at the beginning of it, it suggests that it's for new and experienced leaders. This one is a little bit more lengthy, not terrible, but it's a little bit longer than the other 2, which are pretty short. If you do choose the third one, maybe just give yourself some time to take a look at the that 5th perspective there. I'm just going to check out chat real quick, see if we have any questions about that. So we'll give ourselves about 7 minutes or so. But before I continue with this, are there any questions? You feel free to unmute yourself or just comment in the chat. Are there any questions about what it is that we are doing with this text rendering? Okay, well, I'm gonna hush then and let you guys get to it. We have a couple more minutes if you guys do need it to kind of skim through these articles or read them carefully if you would like. If and when you do get finished, feel free to go ahead and partner your comments in there with Tracy and Bethany's. It looks like they made some observations about working smarter, not harder. I know it's kind of become a cliche, but like there's a reason for cliches. Like they speak truths to us. So once again, you might take one more minute or so and then drop something in that chat if you don't mind. And I'll do the same. Yeah, I noticed, Melody, to that in that Article 3 on the perspectives. I see what you have here about collaboration with others. I think that's probably true. And I think maybe Bethany had echoed that idea too about ownership. And I think probably part of the reason a couple of those to us is, as we're working with personalized learning, we're of course thinking about our kids, how we want to personalize this and make it relevant and real to them. But as leaders, we'll want to do the same thing, and shape that toward what that might look like for the teachers in our building as well. So thank you guys for taking a few minutes to take a look at those articles. Feel free to take a closer look later if you want or not. That's completely up to you guys. But part of the reason that we wanted to take a look at these is, again, so that we could be thinking about, I want to move forward in personalized learning. I know that's the thing, that's that great big thing that we're doing right now, but how do I exactly do that when maybe people in my building aren't on board, or maybe they are willing, but they're just not really sure what that next move is going to actually look like. So let me get back into this. So we'll take a look at some mindsets about personalized learning that we've encountered in round 1, and certainly you will, if you haven't already heard these responses or something similar, you probably will. So one of the assumptions that we found with a lot of the folks that we were working with is we kind of went from, we really fluctuated on that growth continuum, what's personalized learning? I think I'm doing it, to what's personalized learning? So we've kind of gone back and forth a little bit. So we're thinking about these assumptions. If I'm already kind of doing it, maybe. So if I'm already administering surveys, I just want to make sure, well, maybe this does look like a learner profile, and I am partnering that with the data so that I'm looking at the whole picture of what a kid is. If I am using technology, I'm keeping in mind that that's not taking the place, certainly, of interaction with the teacher or even with their peers, but that is supplementing or that's supporting that. And so this really is building on what we said earlier, what elements of personalized learning am I already seeing, and how can I build on that to move my folks forward? And so 2 is a very real assumption that probably a lot of folks are going to be thinking about. How am I supposed to personalize something that's district or even state mandated or whatever? They've given me this textbook, which you're gonna have different opinions on that alone. Then what am I exactly supposed to do with that and make that personalized? So it's actually, take it for what it is, but it's actually a good thing, because at least we have the content now. And we can take that content and we can shape that around who our kids are, what they need, and where we want to help them be moving toward, instead of having to make everything from scratch or spending hours and hours on TPT. So other assumptions, I can't do that. Heck, my kids can't do that. I can't do like, what even? So instead of getting locked into that mind frame, like I can't even, like I've had a few teachers, that was probably my contribution up here from a lot of folks that I work with. They really do. They want to move forward, but they're like, I don't even know. What do I even do next? So we want to be thinking about the support to give our students, yeah, but we, especially this group today, we want to be thinking about what support can we give our teachers so that they feel that they can move forward in this. And so that's going to be rooted in what we know about rigor, relevance, and relationship. And again, that link, that Daggett link, will be available to you guys if you want it or need it a little later on. So again, meeting our kids where they are with what they need to get where they need to be, making it real and relevant to them. And then maybe this last one is the simplest and maybe the most difficult one. Do something. It doesn't have to look pretty, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's probably not going to be. If it does, like you're a unicorn in a field of horses, like good for you, wear it out, but probably not. But the important thing is that we're at least trying, because again, what we had said earlier about getting that momentum going with our teachers, this is how we get that momentum going with ourselves as well. So it's okay to just like step out in faith and try to make something happen. And then here's your warm fuzzy. You can do it, because we really can if we just support each other in this. So I asked you guys on these slides prior to this to be kind of looking at these assumptions that we've encountered and thinking about, well, what if we thought about it this way? What if we took that mindset, and what if we kind of shaped it towards something where we could progress a bit? So if you guys don't mind, I'd like for you to just kind of skim through these 4 here. We'll do something real quick with it, because these 4 could and probably will be some that you will encounter as you as a leader are moving your folks forward in personalized learning. Number 4 is my favorite. No, I'm good. Like, you're going to get it at least once or twice. So we're thinking about what growth mindset encouragement could you as a leader give in one of those scenarios. So what we'll do as a group here, you'll skim through those, and if you're like, yep, number 2, that's the one I hear, or the one I'm going to hear, think about that. And if that teacher says that to you, what encouragement can you give that person to help adjust their mindset, to help adjust their belief about respond in the chat? You're going to put whatever number that you're responding to, 1 through 4, and then how you might guide that person in a new way of thinking. And we'll take a few minutes on that, a couple minutes. Thank you, Mandy. That's a good suggestion for the learner profile. I feel like it maybe even is kind of echoing what I think Lori might have mentioned earlier. Knowing our students well enough to know what motivates them leads to more successful teaching and learning. And then personalized learning just takes it to that next step. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Denise. Yeah, we're all learning in this process, so yeah, we need to model that. It's so hard, like it's difficult. You don't want to be vulnerable in front of your kids or anybody. So yeah, that I think that's an excellent point that you've drawn from that.
Candace, I like what Melody shared about number 4.
I see that.
Yeah, ask the teacher what they think is contributing to their success. Like perhaps they need a partner with another teacher and they could learn from one another. It could be a case where you could use some perceived success to partner teachers, which then sometimes creates some momentum for some further learning and exploration around different practices.
Yeah, even like on both parties. Yeah, I really like that as well. Guys, will you feel free to still be contributing into that chat if you'd like, because we'll save that chat so that we can just take a look at it later, just so that I told Bethany earlier, just so I can make sure I've not missed any comments or any questions that you guys might have. But this is going to sound like a warm fuzzy, but like this is kind of encouraging, like to see the comments that you guys are making in your in the chat today. Like if we're for real and we're genuine about that, like really that's exciting that you guys are going to be in leadership roles, since that is your mindset, since that's the your perspective that you have on this. That's encouraging. Excuse me. I'm so sorry about this cough, guys. I swear it's like not it's not a big deal. It's really not. I'm going to kind of breeze through this really quickly. Sometimes this is just an activity to get us to be thinking about what do our teachers need to unlearn, if anything. And for time's sake, I'll kind of breeze through this. Sometimes we think personalized learning, it might mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. I'm supposed to create an IEP for 102 kids. Like, no, you don't have to do that. Like, I know teaching feels like you're having your hind end handed to you a lot of times, but that is just beyond the scope of what is even reasonable. So no, not that. Another thing that we hear a lot is, well, this is just a fad. Like, it's literacy this year, next year it'll be numeracy. Like, I don't know, I don't have that crystal ball. Maybe not. But in any case, to echo what you guys were saying in the chat a little earlier, like, I hate to reduce this to it being intuitive, but like it really does kind of make sense that if something is real and relevant to a kid or adult, any of us, that we are going to have more buy-in, and that buy-in is probably going to lead to greater effectiveness and greater success. So this question here is really just asking us to kind of think about what we've already looked at. Like what could it be that, as far as mindsets, that might be holding our teachers back? And some of that might have to do with like different initiatives or some of the things that you guys very insightfully addressed in that chat. So I thank you guys again for that. We won't worry about a chat there at this point. So this is just a reminder about mindsets. I know you guys are adults and don't need me reading this to you, but like this is a statement here. So mindsets, the way we position ourselves in relation to whatever thing it is that we feel something about, like they're just beliefs. They're powerful, but it is something that you can change if you want to. So as much as we like to think that our beliefs are concrete and that like forges our identity and who we are, like, yeah, I like the important stuff, but also it's okay to adjust. It's okay to reconsider. It's okay to hear out something else. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, like this is completely something that you guys know, but you know, it might be something to keep in mind when we're working with those teachers who may be really resistant, and you know, not necessarily for an ugly way. Again, maybe they've been through like a million different initiatives and they're just tired, and they need someone to see them as a person as much as we need to see our kids as people too. So this is just a reminder that mindsets, this is something that can be fluid. It's something that we can change and allow to grow, you know, if we want to. And this kind of goes back to what we were alluding to earlier with the growth mindset continuum. So this can go from just absolute, maybe even belligerence here, like, I'm not doing this, not doing any of that, to, well, even if I wanted to, I can't do that. So that's a support or resources issue, to, I want to, but what is even my first step? And you guys can read this and see how this progresses on to, okay, I actually did this and I'm reflecting back on it, like how I can make this maybe even better for the next go around. So it says it's a continuum, but so you'll notice, I mean, I know you see this, but I just want to real quickly point this out. These arrows going back and forth, yeah, like it does. Like it's not linear always. Like you do kind of move forward, move back. I mean, we're human beings, not machines. So you're going to have that kind of those moments when you're questioning yourself. Like, you're good teachers, you're effective teachers, you're like, and strong administrators too. That's just a part of reflection. But we just want to keep that in mind, that again, on this continuum, like, it's okay to move back and forth as long as we are in fact moving. It's so speaking of moving forward, this is going to this is going to help us revisit these questions we've been looking at. So what elements of positive growth mindset am I already saying? So certainly and then you see this is just think time. So certainly we've got somebody in the building who is at least willing, right? And I will say this, like probably like that person or those people are like your A+ teachers or other leaders maybe, and maybe not. Maybe this person needs some skills building, but they are a willing vessel. Like, take it. That's what we want. And then again, how do I use what's existing in my building to help move my folks forward? So earlier you guys saw that quote by Carol Dweck, and I really like what she says about the power of yet. Like, we're not there yet. And so it's encouraging because I'm getting there. I'm taking a step or two there. I am progressing. I am moving forward. So as long as we have folks with us that we can partner with that do want, in fact, to move forward, like, we're getting there on that road to success for personalized learning. So we'll revisit these goals as we are progressing throughout this session. And we'll see. So we've taken a look at personalized learning concepts. We looked at that graphic with the 4 core principles, and we're asking ourselves, keeping those principles in mind, how can I use that to be framing positive mindsets within my building, to be creating that kind of culture of the values and beliefs that are going to move us towards personalized learning. And so then this last bullet point that you see here, this is like the entry points, the practical application. So I know, kind of have an idea of what it is, have an idea of where my mindset, where my attitude, my belief needs to be, and now what do I do? So as we move forward with the and now what do I do, this is just, again, just a reminder, this is what we're working with here. So our 4 core principles. And then we will do this quick see, think, wonder. And we don't have to contribute anything in chat necessarily unless you just want to. If you do, wear it out. But for see, think, wonder, the protocol here is you'll see portions of an image that I'll reveal one quadrant or one section at a time. What do you literally, what do you see? What do you think is probably going on based upon the portions that are being revealed? And then what questions do you have? And so this is a pretty straightforward image. There's a lot going on, but it's a pretty straightforward image. All right, again, so just for time, this one isn't like, terribly crafty or sneaky, but I think we can probably agree it looks like there's a lot going on. There's some movement here. Again, to go back to what you guys, those earlier images from the Flight Academy and the 4 corners, like probably some grouping going on. And then what questions do you have? So what you're thinking and what you're wondering as an administrator or as a leader is a lot of that's going to be similar to what a teacher is thinking or wondering, and a little bit of it will be different. So I mean, maybe classroom management might be one of those things. Excuse me. I know I've worked with a lot of teachers who are like, I cannot have like 36 kids up and moving around, and that's just beyond what I'm willing or what I can. And again, that goes back to what we were saying earlier with the growth mindset. But part of the reason that I had that image up for you again is we wanted to be thinking, well, what are our teachers going to see, think, wonder when we start talking about personalized learning? Are they going to see like a room full of chaos? Are they going to see kids sitting quietly at staring at computers for 45 or 90 minutes at a time? So what's their perception or their mindset of personalized learning as we're preparing ourselves to have those conversations with them? Again, so that they can do something, so that they can just begin. And so this is a helpful model for thinking about complex change, this Nostr's model. And you may have seen this, especially if you've attended other leadership sessions. But again, I don't want to presume too much. So if you'll just look at that first row, these are if all of these components, all of these pieces are in play. If we've communicated the vision, if our folks have the skills that they need in order to achieve this goal, if they're incentivized, and that'll mean different things for different folks. If they have the resources, the stuff, the materials that they need, if they have that action plan and like incrementally we're checking in on that just to make sure we are progressing, then success is what we'll see, what we'll achieve. And so I think, you're all adults, you can see this. Like if a piece of that is missing, then that purple column on the far right-hand side, like that's what we're going to see. So you might think of an initiative that you've experienced in which one of those pieces was missing. I know like the first time I ever saw this, I was like, I wasn't even supposed to, like immediately I was like, yep. Because I was thinking about the different initiatives that just kind of get forced on us sometimes, and we just kind of do our best to roll with it. The thing that's helpful about this model here is that if we do encounter any of these really emotional responses over here on the right-hand side, it might be helpful to just go back and think, okay, so if I am seeing frustration in my faculty that's being expressed, like maybe I can go back and say, well, what might be missing that's creating that kind of frustration? Okay, resources. And then resistance. Okay, well, incentives. And again, what I was saying, sometimes on incentives, like sometimes the resources, that is the incentives. Or sometimes the skills, that's the incentive. Like sometimes people just need to feel, I don't like that. Like if I feel prepared, I feel like I can probably do this, probably, right? So again, the thing that's helpful about this is to look back and see what your staff might need as you're moving forward. And so maybe let's take a minute or two, and I'm hoping that this will be an opportunity for us, for you guys, especially as leaders. Like maybe this will, it'll give you a chance to voice what you think might need to happen, but it also might give the rest of us some ideas about how we can move forward. So we want to be thinking about what kind of support do you think your teachers most need in order for personalized learning to be successful? And then you can take a minute, think about that, and then just comment in the chat. What kind of support do you think they need? Do they need like that clearly communicated vision? Do they need you checking in with them periodically over that action plan? Do they need resources? Do they need, like someone had mentioned, to be partnered with a mentor teacher? What is it do you think that your teachers need in order for this thing called personalized learning to work? I'll give you a minute in chat. I see that, Lori, identifying the elements of personalized learning. I feel like I saw that in one of those articles, like where maybe the first step was to define what personalized learning is. I know I had a teacher like at the end of like round one, she was like, I think I finally understand what this is. So yeah, that clear definition at the beginning is helpful.
Candace, I like what Denise added. They need to know the expectation and the outcome, some backward design.
Yes, love that. Thank you.
Oh, Mandy added, I think resources where they can see it in action. Like, what does this really look like when it's working, you know? And know the expectations and know what the expectations are for our program.
I see that too. I was just looking at Mandy's. Yeah, it makes a lot of us anxious when we don't feel like we have the stuff that we need, but also when we don't even know, like, how do you know you're moving towards your destination if you don't exactly know what that expectation, what that destination even really looks like? Those are very good. Y'all, I don't know if you're just insightful folks or if you've been doing this for a few minutes, but these are really good points that I think are, again, helpful for this group in particular. Yeah, I like that too, Laura, like identifying the elements. Like maybe it's not so scary if you're like, well, this thing that you're already doing. And I've seen that gives folks a lot of momentum. Yeah, and Denise is echoing this as well. Yeah, build on the familiar. This is great, guys. Yeah, it lessens the fear of more work. Yeah, because I mean, I think there was like one of those articles, you know, it says that teachers are good people. That was one perspective, that we're good people, you know, basically and from the get-go. But, and like, I mean, we're not necessarily afraid of more work, but like we want to work purposely. We don't just want more stuff just for the sake of stuff. Like we want to make sure that we're using our time and energy in a really effective way. Guys, thank you so much for chiming in on that. I really enjoyed reading those comments, and I'll check out this chat later at the end of the session just to make sure I didn't overlook anything. Bethany, thank you for pointing out a lot of those really strong comments for us. I want to, if I can here, share, this is a document that's available to you. Bethany, if you are able to drop that link back in the chat, this Google Doc is actually the last, it's the last link that's on there. I'll give her a minute to do that. And this, you all, this is nothing, of course, that you have to do, but this is just, I don't know if later you do want to plug in some of this information so that you're like, what did that person in June say about mindsets and so on? This will just give you a place to real quickly have some of this information at your fingertips. Again, it's just a suggestion. This is nothing at all that you have to do. I think Bethany has dropped that link. It'll be the last link in that Google Doc if you choose to use that. If not, that's fine too. You certainly probably have other ways of documenting your work. So as we are wrapping this up here in just a little bit, we just want to be thinking about our key takeaways. And this goes back to our goals. So we're thinking about, within the context of personalized learning especially, our mindsets toward that. And we're always looking back and thinking about that so that we can, in fact, move forward. We want to support teachers and their concerns. We want to anticipate those assumptions about personalized learning that they might have, and consider ourselves like how that is rooted in their mindsets, in their values, and in their beliefs that they have about personalized learning, about their own teaching, and so on. And of course, we want to start somewhere to build that momentum. We want to start recruiting those teachers, those groups of people that we think, if I can just at least get like this little pocket of people moving on this, we could get started and moving on this. And then this is just like, why not throw this in here, right? It's like on every Google search for success ever, but we will be on that road to success. And so speaking of reflection, as we've mentioned that as one of our takeaways, let's take just a minute as we wrap up here before Bethany shares that evaluation link with us. And we'll be thinking again about these questions. These have been our essential, our guiding questions throughout. And again, you guys did an excellent job of reiterating that throughout that chat. So what elements of personalized learning are you already seeing? And how can I take that and help move my school forward in personalized learning? So we have just a minute here, if you don't mind, to drop something in the chat. And the reason I ask you to do that is, one, for you, it helps you commit to taking that step, but it also is probably going to be a good suggestion for a lot of the other leaders in our group. So think about, what am I already seeing? I'm already seeing X, and that's going to help me move toward Y. Take maybe 2 minutes to do that. Thank you, Denise. I see that about RTI and other programs like iReady. Yeah, we already have some programs that are adaptive already in place. And I've noticed for those of you guys that are using iReady, there was some like added component that I was exposed to like at the end of our last year, where it allows kids to see like what standards, like we want them to hit all those standards, but it allows them to see like what standards that they've mastered, which ones that they are still progressing on. So yeah, I really like that suggestion about using some of the programs. It's not about programs, but if you have them, use them if it does support your vision. I like this, Lori, about your grade level teams. You're working on personalized learning. Yeah, I feel like, we were talking about building that network and building that momentum. Like, this, like there are people in your building, they're already kind of sort of maybe doing some of this. And so that's going to be an easy enough sell for at least those people. And that will be your buy, and that will be your momentum that you can get. Guys, these are excellent comments. I gotta say, truthfully, like I know, again, Linda, I'm gonna pick on you again for being that maybe our only morning person here, but like, yeah, thanks for showing up on a Monday morning. You guys had some very insightful contributions. I'm really excited to look back through these and think a little bit more deeply about what you guys have said as leaders and how that's gonna impact me as well as a coach. You guys feel free to keep on dropping things into that chat if you would like. And at this time, I think I'll go ahead and turn this over to Bethany, and she can share what we need to know about that evaluation and certificate.
For sure. Thank you, Candace.
Thank you.
Yes, early Monday morning, but what a fun way to spend it with colleagues thinking about personalized learning and, again, preparing that road for this work in our schools. All right, so John is going to drop in our chat our link to the evaluation and certificate. We want to just, again, say thank you for attending this session, and if you could just take this 1-minute survey. One is going to help us reflect on your thoughts. We're always looking for ways to improve as an organization and as individual session leaders here. So give us your thoughts on that. And then also, if you're interested in receiving a certificate of attendance for the session, you'll be prompted to share your information. And those come to you pretty quickly, thanks to John behind the scenes. All right, Candace, I'll turn it back over to you for any last minute thoughts here.
Okay. Again, I mean, y'all are going to like leave with a big head this morning probably, but I can't thank you guys enough for showing up, for being active participants, for giving us all some things to think about during this session itself, but also to kind of marinate on some things later. Truly, your schools are fortunate to have you guys. If this is your mindset that you have towards personalized learning, like we are well on our way. So thank you guys again so much for dropping in with us this morning, and feel free to hang out for a few minutes if you have any kind of questions that you feel like you needed to further discuss or that were answered. Otherwise, you feel free to continue on with Monday. Thank you guys.